All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. Today, we are taking a look at North Fence Development, a fencing contractor out of Sacramento, California. We're going to do a quick overview of their website, make some suggestions, kind of speak through what I would be looking at, improvements that I think would make an impact to the bottom line, drive more customer engagement, and improve their overall sort of searchability for the company. So, we're going to look at this, somewhat from an SEO perspective. So how to get ranked and be found on Google. Also from a conversion perspective as well. So once somebody lands on our website, what do we want them to do, and how quickly do we want them to take that action? So overall, North Star Fence Development is ahead of the game. For most, but they're also in a very competitive market, right? So they have a modern look and feel website. They have images that clearly are from the work that they do that looks super high quality. We've got social proof. We speak to the kind of areas that we do. We talk about being licensed and insured. Those are all super positive. Our process, breaking it down, all positive, positive, positive. Residential, commercial, great. Free estimates, cool. I will come back to sort of how we want to drive these actions. I think there's some improvement here instead of sending people to the contact page. More social proof, awesome job here, and then a contact form. Love to see the contact form as an option. If we can get somebody on the phone, amazing. But most of the time, we're not going to be able to answer the phone at 9 p.m. on a Friday when somebody's searching for fence quotes. So having that online form is really key. And one thing I would suggest for this website from a conversion perspective is to move that contact form all the way up to the top of the website. If it could be in this section over here, kind of where the logo is, I think you would see a big conversion, an increase in conversions for people coming here, right? So they want to land here, say, oh, these guys are legit. They have a website. I want to quote. Make it as frictionless as possible, collect as little information as possible to just get them started, and then have a system of following up with them, whether it's an in-person, in quote inspection that needs to happen, or a phone quote. Make sure that it's super easy for them to submit an online form to do that, and then have automations around that to give them notifications saying that, hey, we got your information, automatically follow up, quote, etc. So that would see a pretty big increase in conversions for those landing on here. The next piece is how do we get more people to land on the website? So currently, if we're jumping into the SEO, if I'm looking at this, we're targeting Sacramento area fencing. I don't know who did the keyword research. I would just imagine that there's not a whole lot of people searching for Sacramento area fencing exactly within Google. If you had local fencing contractor, fencing company in Sacramento, best local fencing contractor in Sacramento, maybe even by sub community, I think you would see a lot higher search volume, excuse me, than this Sacramento area fencing. We do talk about residential commercial, but we don't give any context here. So if we wanted to have, the top residential and commercial fence installation company in Sacramento, that's one thing that would be kind of a high value and highly searched keyword. Now we look to and we try to mention some of these high value keywords here, but I'd like to see our most important one. If let's in this case, I have to assume it might be something like Sacramento Fence Contractor. I would like to see that here in the SEO title, as well as here in our description. So have it be North Star Fence Development is the local fencing contractor for the Sacramento area, or Sacramento's lead fencing contractor. That sort of an approach would really help tell Google exactly who you're trying to target and what you're trying to target. Then if we jump into our headers, this is another big indicator with Google. Real quickly, if we look at our numbers here, we have 2 H1s, 11 H2s, 12 H3s. Excuse me. Overall, not bad, but we want to have one H1. So our H1 is the number one thing we're telling Google in terms of what this page is and who we are. And we have currently H1 set to our phone number and about North Star Development. So our headers are a little bit all over the place from an SEO perspective. I'd like to see this cleaned up. I would probably make this our H1, so that, or improve and put a keyword in here, let Sacramento's, top fencing contractor, protect your home, family, and business, and make that an H1. That would work really well. Some of these other H2s are decent, but I'd get rid of these other ones, right? Like our review for Michael K, that shouldn't be an H2. These H3s work. I would probably, maybe I would look just for search volume. We might want to add chain link fence installation and repair as a keyword rather than just chain link fences or wood fences. We have to do some more research there, but that's another tweak you could make. So if we jump in and actually look at what this website's currently ranking for, let me move this window out of the way. We can see that website is fairly new, so 2023, and we're building a little bit of momentum, but in terms of organic search, we're not getting a ton of traffic to this site. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way that we have it structured for SEO. If we look at our keywords, we've got a handful in our top 4 to 10 positions, none in the top 3, which means that the likelihood of anybody actually clicking through to our website is super low, especially for our name. I'd like to see our name here as a number 1, right? We should be able to have North Star fence development as a top ranked keyword, and we're not seeing that here, which means we have some SEO work, because at least we want to be able to have our brand come up when somebody's searching for our name, and that's not the case right now. So if we adjust here, we've got a couple keywords here. Sacramento fence contractor, we're at 20. We're not seeing traffic, and there's not a huge amount of volume. North Star fence, fencing Sacramento, all positives, but we'd want to increase this. And I think the adjustments to how we're structuring our keywords, both on our homepage and throughout, would make a big impact on that. Then if we jump over to our Google My Business profile, we got our label, or our category set up appropriately. Our reviews are a little bit low, based off of the number of photos that I'm seeing, the number of projects that we've worked on. We could see that an improvement in terms of reviews. So if you don't currently have a system to automate the review request process, I would definitely recommend that. If we're looking at competition here, we have, incumbents in the market and or people that are really pushing for reviews that are way ahead of us, but that's not something that's insurmountable, right? We can see that this company with 35 is intermixing with the 153, 225, 83. So you don't have to have the most reviews, but it is the number 1 indicator for Google. And it's not necessarily total, but how many you're getting on a consistent basis is also a factor. So increasing those Google reviews will make a big impact in terms of driving leads. I mean, down here we've got, 4, showing up fairly well. If we can get higher and higher on this list, this is more customers coming, knocking on our door, asking for quotes. And so the biggest thing for me, even outside of the SEO, would be getting more reviews. It's one thing to ask for them. Having a system that's going to automate it is a whole other thing. There's a lot of options out there for this. If you already have a CRM, it might be built into that, but I would look into something that says, every time a job is completed, they should be getting a text message and email asking for that review and a couple follow-ups for that, because those reviews are gold for a business like this, and definitely something that we could improve on. I did want to pull up somebody in the market that is doing really well. So if we jump over to this classic fence company, from an SEO perspective and from the Google review perspective, they're doing really well. So this is our homepage. If we look at the SEO, it is the best fence company in Sacramento County. And then we have the best fence company serving Greater Sacramento. So we basically have the same keyword in a different sort of order, both here in the title and down here in the description. And as we can see, we have our H1s and H2s. I'm assuming that we're going to have something like this as our H1. Let's go ahead and jump over. and see, yep, Sacramento Quality Fencing Company. It's slightly different, but again, we got Sacramento and Fencing Company in there, which is what we're targeting. And then we got our H2s broken down fairly well. Similar situation where I would say you could probably, put a few more keywords in here. Hiring the most responsible Sacramento Fence Company, that's great. Fence Company again, Sacramento, that's great. They're doing all the steps. So if I was in North Star Fence Development, I would look at a company like Classic Fence Co. and model my structure of my website off of these guys. So if we jump into fence types, I mean, they're way ahead. They've done a ton of work. I'm not saying you need to do this all at once, but this would be like long-term goals. So if we went dog ear fence, right, they have every type of wood fence as a standalone page. And again, if we go in the SEO, this is the keyword that they're trying to target. And here it is again, Sacramento home, dog-eared fence again. And then if we actually do a Google search for them, dog-eared fence installation in Sacramento, I bet we're going to find them. Here they are in the map pack, Classic Fence Company, again, ton of reviews, which is awesome, but they're number one, and they're actually number, 4 or 5 down here as well. So anybody that's specifically searching for that type of fence in Sacramento has a much higher likelihood of landing on this website and thus requesting a quote with this company. So if I was in the shoes of, this North Star Fence Development, I would be modeling my plan, my structure, sort of these are my goals here, right? Get to the point the Classic Fence are. And just because they've been at it longer, they're further ahead, doesn't mean that you can't be competitive, especially within, your specific markets. So in terms of pages, you got your SEO work. I would like to see you break out services into individual pages. So having, your commercial fencing, your chain link fences as separate pages and targeting them specifically would be very beneficial. And the same thing with your service areas. So rather than just listing them here, if you had a page for El Dorado Hills, Cameron Park, Shingle Springs, Lomas, Auburn, all targeting specific keywords for that area and speaking to the needs of that area, you would be way more competitive showing up both for organic search, but it is a factor as well in how Google is presenting you on the map pack as well. Whether or not they show you up as an option is determined both by your service area, but also if you have SEO backing up your claims in terms of what you do. So hopefully that's informative. We covered a ton. These are all just like individual, make small improvements over time, right? So figure out, again, I think top priority is more Google reviews. It's just creating a system there, making sure your team is requesting it. When you're collecting invoice, when you're doing final inspection, ask for that review, but don't leave it at that. Have a system in place that's going to automatically follow up on your behalf, because none of us have enough time to do it manually, but we know that the more reviews we get, the better our business is going to be. Hopefully it's helpful. If you guys got any questions, drop it into the chat. And if you are North Star Fence Development and you need a hand, let me know. Thanks.